I need you to do a few things. I need to hear from you. What is it that you want to hear about in 2025?
Have you been thinking about buying your first rental property for some time, or do you already own a bunch of properties? Well, fellow investors, you found the right location to listen and learn from others' successes. Welcome to The Very Real Estate Effect with your host, Axel Mont-Saint-Jean.
Hello, and welcome back to the Very Real Estate Effect podcast, a show dedicated to real estate investing right here in Quebec. And to start with, I just want to wish you a happy 2025. We've just ended 2024. 25 is starting. I wish you happiness, health, success to you and your family. And most importantly, I wish you to achieve your goals and objectives, whatever they are, whether it's to start investing in real estate, to scale your portfolio, to get in good physical health and exercise more, go to the gym, to eat better, to educate, whatever it is. Do it. Now, I hope you have a strategy to attain your goals. And that's a whole other section, question, and all that. And that's not really what I'm going to be going into today. It's the beginning of 2025, and I want to make a few important points for this year. First of all, if you're listening to this episode, you are listening to 221 or 22. I'm not even sure exactly, but there is a backlog of a history of 220 episodes that I've been doing over the last 5 years. And sometimes I think about this and I have to say that I'm actually really proud. And sometimes I forget all the work that's put into this podcast to make sure that every week you get to listen to something about the real estate market. You get to educate yourself and you get to hear from great guests and educate yourself. And I've always started the podcast by saying that it's about, real estate investing in Quebec. Sometimes we have guests from the rest of Canada. We have guests from the US. Of course, we'll have guests from everywhere. We've had, guests from other exotic locations. It's just that every time there is something for you to learn in there, because my passion has been to share this knowledge with you, because I'm nothing special. If I can do it, you can do it too. Now, I might be going at it for a bit longer than you have. I might be putting more reps, more work than you, and it's not more or less. It's just we've been doing it differently. And I want to share with you how happy and proud I am for this wonderful podcast. I thank you for listening week after week. And some of you, it might just be the first time. I know some of you listen on a weekly basis, and some of you have even shared, I look forward to Fridays because I get to listen to you in the car. And I really want to take this opportunity to let you know how grateful I am, because frankly, sometimes it's hard. And some weeks, I'm like, oh my God, it's Wednesday. What am I going to do for Friday? And I have some wonderful guests that come. And then sometimes I do some solo episodes to share what is it that I'm working on, because I've always committed to sharing the reality and the truth. And I've never been the type of guy to take a picture of me with a big check because that's just not who I am. And that's not the message and the image I want to give of real estate investors, because standing next to a check is like maybe twice a year, but the vast majority of the time, it's not particularly pleasant. It's not always fun. And it's mostly a lot of problem solving. I recently did an episode in 2024. I invite you to go listen to it, about just the amount of problem solving. And we were talking about it with my wonderful wife, how most of what we do now is just solve problems and find solutions and gather experts to find the solution that we don't have, but we need the outcome. So we'll gather them around the table, make sure they can talk to each other, and we just have to broker a solution. We just don't necessarily need to come up with it. So thank you for listening to the podcast. And there's a few things you can do for me. And, as much as I'm shy to ask sometimes, I'm actually going to voice it. I need you to do a few things. I need to hear from you. What is it that you want to hear about in 2025? Are there particular topics, and are there questions that you have? Okay, let me know. You know how to reach me on social media. You can go on LinkedIn, you can go on Instagram, you can go by email, excel@realestateeffect.ca. Send me some questions, some comments, some topics that you want to hear about. Also, Send me people who you think would be great on the show. And frankly, it might just be you. And you're shy to say, hey, Excel, I'd love to come on your show, but why not? You may have done a transaction that is worth sharing. Don't feel like you have to have hundreds of units under management to be worth hearing from. You also have a voice, and you might have closed a super good deal on a triplex somewhere, and it's worth sharing because it will inspire other people. And that's what I want to hear about. Now, do I want some of the, I'll call them the big shots, the big presidents, the big CEOs, the big experts? Absolutely, I want them on the show. But I also want to hear from people like you and me who are just, I was going to say, regular folks who wake up in the morning, go work hard at it, and have something to share, because some of the best feedback I've gotten from episodes are actually from episodes that I thought were kind of average, but then it was relatable. And that's what people want. I could have Joe Rogan here. Well, I don't know if I could. Maybe one day. Or I could have some some Grant Cardones. I don't know if I could. Maybe that could be a fun objective. But Grant Cardone is so hard to relate to because he manages $1 billion worth and he's got a team of a few hundred people. That's not who I am. That's not who you are. Now, it'd be wonderful because he's got, great energy. But the feedback I've gotten was, we like your show because you've kept it down to earth and it's relatable people. And I want to continue. So I want to hear from you about topics. I want to hear from you about people that you'd like to have on the show. And you may have heard a newspaper or read a newspaper article or heard a show and said, oh my God, Excel, I just listened to podcasts with so-and-so. I really think you should have him on the show. In fact, if you want, but you don't have to, if you give me just a name, I'll go and reach out to them. But if you want to make a dent, and I'll be glad to, have a good shout out for you, is for you to help me get that person on the show. We'll have them in studio here and we can do it together. I'm grateful for the show. Thank you for listening. And one thing you could do to help me is to share it with a friend, because one of the only things I get to track, other than fun conversations I have with people that I meet at events or on the street or in meetings, is, hey, I love your show. Thank you. Share it with more people. One of the metrics that I have is, the number of listens, the number of downloads. And so I track this on month to month basis. And it actually helps me because that's where you make a dent. So just talk to 2 or 3 friends that want to educate themselves on the real estate market in Quebec and have them listen to the show. Now, as we're starting 2025, I'm not going to do, my goals and objectives, but I do want to look back on 2024 because 2024 has had some good successes. It was also a very challenging year for me. My Saint-Jérôme project has been a struggle, but at the end of the year, we've had some amazing news. It's going to turn out to be an even better deal than I had dreamed and imagined. And I'm still, early this year, 2025, the city's going to be finally releasing the new zoning map and the new plan d'urbanisme. I know I've been talking about this for months because it's a huge hold up for me. The project, we're right now approved for 6 floors. We're going to end up doing more than this, and I have a rough idea of how many, but I'll keep that as a surprise. Also, because I'm not 100% sure, it still depends on the city. And as it hasn't always been great. And back in April, May, June, I went through a really, really difficult period because I was struggling financially with the project. I needed more capital, and going about it was tough. There's 2 other projects that we've put in the pipeline. We did a refi, we did a bunch of other stuff. And for 2025, I know it will be the beginning of the Saint-Jérôme build. That's really the objective, so that we start the construction this summer 2025. And what I want to say also on the air is that by the time we have the first shovel in the ground ceremony, I'd love to have some of you there so we can just have a glass of water, have a glass of champagne, take the shovel, shove it in the ground, throw it in our back, and just say, wow, 2.5 years of development, and that was worth it. I also want to share how grateful I am to a few people. The first one is my lovely, amazing wife, who has been the most supportive person that I have. I'm so lucky to be with her. I don't think she really listens to the podcast anymore, but I'll still say it. I am extremely grateful for your support, for your unconditional love, and for believing in my crazy ideas, whether it's starting this podcast, at the beginning of COVID, whether it's the real estate projects that we've been doing, is the amount of energy you've put in the vision that you have. Because a lot of the projects that we've done together, I'm kind of the front and I talk about these things, but she does a lot, and she does sometimes a lot of the not fun work, and her vision I admire because she's able to look at a property. She's extremely good at finding off-market deals and doing some redevelopments. This is now the third that we'll be doing this way. And she has a real vision in giving an old neglected property a new life, because she likes to create new spaces and revamp spaces, because we actually get to add to the supply stock. We get to add new dwellings. Some people, their model is just to optimize, but to me, you don't add. You just kind of improve, which is great and is really necessary. Let's not forget how bad of a shape the stock is in Quebec. And I'm thinking of those multi-families in certain neighborhoods like the Plateau or some in Verdun or all over town, that some of the doors can't close because the ground has moved so much and the foundations aren't stable, and there is no incentive to renovate them and to change the windows, because the way it's structured right here in Quebec, it's really not worth investing much in some of those old properties. But we take a different approach. We like to take some really neglected places, pretty much put them down or do a severe strip and full renovation, to take vacant units, some that were deemed unlivable, and renovate them and put them back on the market, so a wonderful family can move in there and create a family and make memories and contribute to society in their own way. I'm extremely grateful to you, my lovely wife, Rosalie. Thank you for everything that you've put up with me and the ups and downs. I know it's been difficult. Yeah, I can't say it enough. Thank you very much for that. I also really want to mention Great Things Studios. This is now the I don't know how many recording, fifth, sixth recording that I've done here in this wonderful space. As you know, I still do some recordings with some guests that are outside of Quebec through online. We do it digitally using another platform. Coming to this studio here, Great Things Studio, has been a game changer. It's so professional, and all I get to do is I just sit in this blue wonderful chair, and I get to chat and to share with you, and they take care of everything. They also do some commercial videos. They do all types of media, video, audio, you name it. If your company has any needs for this, contact them. I deal with Jean. He's been super helpful. He responds quickly. It's been a pleasure to work with him. And I've heard, the feedback is like, wow, Axel, your podcast has gone really professional now. And it's like, yeah, I'm just the same dude talking, but it's just that now I actually go to a really professional place, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So thank you very much to them. Great Things Studios. If you need anything, get in touch with them. Now, the community of real estate investors has been extremely supportive, and I always love meeting some of you or going to events and be like, oh, you're this guy who does the podcast in English. This is great, because there's so much content in Quebec in French, but there isn't that much in English. And this is why I started it, because a big portion of the population, to me, has been underserved, and we're not doing ourselves a favor. Quebec is a wonderful province in both French and English. I'm a French first language. Yes, I work mostly in English. This is the way things have happened. And I want to communicate how grateful I am to you, listeners. And now I want more of your feedback for guests, for topics, for where you'd like to get on the show. And it also leads me to the point where I was thinking about now our 5th year as a podcast. I've never missed a week. We've never missed a week, and some of you have been listening for the last 5 years now. And I've been thinking of maybe taking a co-host. I've been thinking of having partners. I'm looking for sponsors. If any of you have any ideas of companies or of individuals who would like to sponsor the show to come on, so far I've actually paid for most of this myself. I've had a few contributions, and I'm very grateful for them, and I deeply thank those partners. And I've been thinking about it. Maybe it's time to take it to a whole other level. And I welcome your ideas. If you can think of a company who might be interested in sharing some of their knowledge with our audience and getting exposure to the wonderful group of investors that you are, please let me know. And also maybe a co-host. I'd love to find someone that can come on the show and participate and ask questions. It's just that in some ways I feel like it's going to be a little bit hard for me to let go, but I'm ready for this now. And so maybe that's one of the things that will happen in 2025. I was kind of reluctant of talking about it, but on the way here, I was thinking, and it's time. If any of you are interested, get in touch. Let's see. I might say yes. I might say no. We might do a trial. I don't really know how I'm going to go about it yet, but we just got to start the conversation somewhere. Just like this podcast started back in 2020, not in my basement, but in my living room, dining room table, and just went from there. So lastly, I want to thank a lot of the guests that we've had. Again, so proud of the knowledge we've been able to share. It's been wonderful. It's been a wonderful journey, and I want to keep going, just maybe in a different way. I think the format will more or less stay the same. But anyways, just want to put a lot of ideas out there, and I am open to change. I've also been told it's time for you to do a rebrand. Yeah, probably. It's maybe been due for a year or two. It hasn't been a priority. I focused on other projects. I'm more comfortable with now admitting that I can only go so far. I can only do how much I can handle, and yet I'm open to taking people on the team so we can work on this together. So I wish you the best for 2025. I hope you had a good holiday season with your loved ones. We're now just at the crack beginning of 2025, and let there be success for you. Let there be light. Let there be success. On this note, I challenge you to surpass yourself this year. Take it to the next level. If I can do it, you can do it too. Now, I'm waiting for your feedback. I'm waiting for your inputs. Get in touch with me, please. That's the one thing you can do for me in 2025. On this wonderful note, thank you very much, and I'll talk to you next week. Goodbye.